It's our cardio for today. Has anyone had an opportunity to take our online survey regarding goals and stuff like that? Anyone? Thank you. Our interns are going to bring down some hard copies, so if you don't mind grabbing some on your way out, you can either scan and send it back to us, or fax them, whichever works for you, or if you want to complete them during this session, just leave them here. That'd be great as well, and they're also available online. So I want to welcome everyone to our 2017 public consultation session regarding our overall goal and sub-goals for the MBE program. I'm Chantal Kai-Lewis. I work in compliance and policy here at GOSPA, which is the Governor's We're still getting accustomed to our new name, and it's a mouthful, so we go by GOSPA now. We used to be the Governor's Office of Minority Affairs. And with this past legislative session, we actually changed our name to the Governor's Office of Small, Minority, and Women's Business Affairs. The reason being is that GOMA was such a catch-all phrase that we were getting calls on all types of topics and subjects that you would not believe. And so we wanted to make sure that everyone knew that this office is the one-stop shop for all our small business affairs in the state. So now you know where to go. I have here with me my coworker, Lisa Sanford. She also works in compliance.
All areas of compliance.
So I'm going to start with giving everyone a little history about the MBE program. The MBE program was established in 1978 when the General Assembly determined that discrimination was the basis for the underutilization of minority businesses in the state procurement arena. And so in order to remedy that, they enacted this program. Now, in order for this program to continue, there are two factors that we must implement and consider. The first being that this program is narrowly tailored. These are constitutional standards. We don't make them up, but we do have to follow them in order for our program to continue to be constitutional. So what do we mean by narrowly tailored? It's just what it sounds like. We can't pick our goals all willy-nilly. We have to consider actual evidence of discrimination, and hence why we have goals and sub-goals that are a specific number that we aspire to. The second factor is we must have a compelling public interest. And what that means is that the state wants to see economic development across the board, and discrimination doesn't foster such economic development. So as such, if there continues to be evidence of discrimination in the public marketplace, to the point where it's limiting economic development for businesses in the state, we have an evidentiary basis to continue this program. And the way that we get that evidentiary basis is that every 5 years, we conduct a study called the disparity study. How many folks are familiar with the disparity study? Okay, great. It's the reason that this program exists. So we study the availability of firms, minority firms in our state marketplace. That doesn't just include Maryland, it's Delaware, Virginia, all the surrounding areas. We study the availability as well as the utilization in the state market. And if we find that there is a significant disparity between those numbers, that creates the basis for the continuation of this program. So those are the two factors that we look at. So now for the reason we are all here today. Today we're seeking your input on a very important process, and that is the establishing of our overall goal for the program, which is currently set at 29%. And what that means is, I'm sure all of you who are, how many people in the room are MBE certified? Oh, everyone. How many of you are not MBE certified but do work with the state? Any prime contractors? Okay, great. So the statute, the MBE statute requires that we consult with our stakeholders on how we set our goals every 2 years. It's So that is the purpose of today's meeting. And the legislators, when we were writing our MBE statute, just recently updated this, I would say about 2 years ago. Previously, the MBE statute, the MBE goal was set in statute, and we wanted to make it more flexible and more accurate. So rather than doing it every 4 years and writing it in statute, we wanted to seek input from the public, and now we consider our goals every 2 years. So this is our 2017 biennial mark. As indicated on the invite that you received, we consult a broad range of individuals, minority group, women groups, general contracting groups, community organizations, and we're seeking information on the following topics: the availability of minority and women-owned businesses, the effects of discrimination on opportunities for minority and women-owned businesses, and the state's operation of the MBE program. So I want to make clear that the purpose of today's session is kind of like a sound off. We are here to listen. We're not necessarily going to be answering questions about the program today. We really just want to hear from you on how we can improve this program, and also how you think our goals should change or how they have affected your business thus far. And that'll serve as the anecdotal evidence for how we set our goals going forward. And so we're here to listen today. And if we can just refer to the PowerPoint up ahead, in order to accommodate as many folks as possible, we're going to limit comments to 1 to 3 minutes. We just ask that each time you speak, you state your name and your business. If confidentiality is a concern, I can assure you that most of will be the only individuals using this information as anecdotal evidence. So you don't have to have concerns about if you have a gripe or other issue with the state. That's not in any way going to affect your participation with state contracts going forward. So we want you to be as open and honest as possible about your experiences. And so without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started with our list of topics, and I want to provide you all with as much time as possible to speak. So we're going to start with MBE and non-MBE availability in the local marketplace. As a prime contractor or subcontractor, do you have any comments on the availability of firms?
Captain John Rubino, Rubino Enterprises. We are a prime minority contractor, and we have not had a problem with MBE availability. We have a extended database. What we are finding, and I'm sure it's coming up, is the sub-goals. We are finding it when this seminar was coming up. I spoke with several other general contractors, much larger than us and much smaller than us, and they have expressed the same problem. The sub-goals are a big problem. I don't think any prime contractor would have a problem if you raised the MBE goal. The sub-goal is a problem, and it limits what the prime contractor can do and can use. An example, we're finding that woman-owned minorities are not even listed as sub-goals. African Americans are, Asians are, Native Americans are not. So we're finding that there's I think I want to say a segregation of the sub-goals. And I think that needs to really be addressed.
Thank you. Anyone else with comments on availability? Anyone else echo the sentiment of the gentleman here with the sub-goals? I'm going to be writing each concern up here. I can put them all on there. I would say go ahead and check off. You agree?
Yeah, I agree. John Finn, Wagner Heavy Steel, we're fine having highway end of the business, I agree, the sub-goals are a huge problem. We are looking at a project right now that's $250 million or more. African American sub-goal 7%, $18 million. Asian sub-goal 4%, $10 million. Overall goal is 16%, which I think is fine. The sub-goals are fine. The overall goal is fine, the sub-goals are a huge problem. We have questioned, this is the Transportation Authority job, we have questioned them. And their answer was, they came back and said there's 300 African American firms with the right NAICS codes, and there was 100 and some Asian firms with the NAICS codes. The NAICS codes are not all that's part of the formula. In the MBE directory, they really tie your hands with saying specifically something. And with that being said, if it doesn't say exactly what you're going to do there, you're taking a chance of not being approved at bid time. I echo the gentleman's comments. The sub-goals are a huge problem. The number of firms that the folks who are administering the program think that are there, it's simply not true. It's the same few people in the highway side, highway and bridge, that quote the jobs all the time. There are a lot of truckers, there are other folks, but people who do the type of work that we do, it's very, very limited. And right now, a lot of people are busy. There's one African American firm in particular that could fill a big hole on this job. They're simply not interested. They're too busy. It's a big problem, and the sub-goals definitely need to be looked at again.
I just want to be clear, your issue was that they are too limiting, like you would like to see them raised, or you would just like to see them abolished altogether?
The sub-goals are a problem. The overall goal, we have lots of options. In this case, for Native Americans and for women, the percentage that's left is 5%. And the women pool is definitely a big pool. And we are really limited when the sub-goals are there. And like I said, on this job, I have no idea how you're going to get $10 million worth of Asian participation. It's simply not there. It's simply not there.
I just try to understand.
Could you state your name? We're recording.
My name is Xiaodong. Okay. Yeah, just try to understand how the sub-goal becomes the issue.
It becomes an issue because there's not enough of firms that do the type of work that we do to meet the goal. It's simply not there.
What specifically the sub-goal is? Is it Asian American?
Asian American, yes. One sub-goal, it's 4% on this job, amounts to $10 million.
Okay.
The other goal is the African American, which is 7%.
Right.
They're both difficult to meet. The Asian, I think, is going to be more difficult.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
So for each industry in the state, we have sub-goal guidelines, and essentially what this sub-goal is a further delineation of the overall goal. So if there's an overall goal on a construction project, as you mentioned, an overall goal of, let's say, 20%, the state is going to ask that 7% go to Asian Americans.
7 African American.
7 African Americans, 4 Asian. So, within that overall goal, we want to see that specific delineation. The reason being is I think back in 2011, the administration thought that, they wanted to see more diversity in the firms that were being utilized. So that was, the thought process was that was a way to, I guess, share the wealth by requiring that we utilize sub-goals so that the subgroups, meaning Asian, African Americans, Hispanics, in those categories, whichever group was doing the worst or getting the least business, would be given a sub-goal. So for example, that's why you won't see a Hispanic American sub-goal in construction, because our state data shows that Hispanic Americans are doing well in the construction industry, whereas Asian Americans or African Americans are not faring as well compared to their availability. So that's the rationale behind sub-goals. Explain. If anyone has further commentary.
I have a question, back off of the answer. Leona Charles, SBC Business Consulting. Is the reason you can't find, sub-goals or companies to build sub-goals, is it a performance issue that they don't have the past performance that allows you to bid successfully with them?
There's a limited number of folks who do the type of work that's on the jobs that we do. It's as simple as that. You know, there's only so much trucking, there's only so much of everything. For example, there's $25 million worth of structural steel on this job. There are no Asian Americans that furnish and set structural steel. Not available.
So the ones that are available, have you looked into maybe their supply chains, that maybe you can need to go through their supply chains and maybe some of their subcontractors?
I'm not sure.
They have issues like that.
Yeah, absolutely. The MDTA wants nothing to do with 13. Nothing. It's a huge problem. And the folks, the firms that they say have the right NAICS codes, out of 300 African American firms, there are only 5 or 6 that might. Now there's lots of truckers and stuff. There's only a limited number of stuff on each job. And I guess that's another thing I'd like to bring up. Every job is 7 and 4. We question that, and they say, yes, we looked at the individual job. I guess they punch in NAICS codes and come up with these numbers that show folks are available. It's simply not reality.
The problem is when you put your next codes in, a lot of people will say, I want to qualify for this, and I have some past performance in each one, but it's very limited. It doesn't take much to qualify and put a next codes down. But when you go to ask them, are you working in that next codes, they'll say, no, we have it, but we're not working in it, or it's very limited past performance. And these jobs are much bigger. So there's no way they're going to require that contractor to bond back, most likely. So they're not going to get the bonding for it. And that's the
Say your
issue.
name.
I'm Kara Barber with the Barber Group. So, my name is Ann Frank, and I work with Small Business Development Center under the SBA, and definitely want to talk to this gentleman. I definitely have heard prime contractors, and I work specifically with a state and federal program for construction and construction-related companies. And the reason that this program exists is because the federal government and state government said we can't find contractors in heavy highway either. But we have been able to find these contractors. And so I think it has a lot to do with how they are listed in the NDE system. One of my state highway procurement officers has shared with me that he oftentimes has to tell NDEs that they're not only is their NAICS code not representing what they really do, there's another code too, the NIGP. Are you familiar with that? Yeah. So I think a lot of times the MDEs aren't really marketing themselves as well as they possibly could so that prime contractors can locate them. that's a part of. Now, I do understand that not everybody is an expert in every field, and it is limited. But I would also ask, where are you looking for, your contractors as well? Are you partnering with other organizations to help find the type of, subcontractors you're looking for?
John Rubino again. Well, I think the other thing that the other gentleman was relating to is we could find, let's say, a road operator that has an ACE codes, and you contact him. He does not self-perform that. He would sub that, but that would knock him out. So we found that when we have small repaving projects at the cruise terminal, and we went through 10 or 12 African-American paving contractors, and only 2 self-performed. Of the 2, one we had to chase down for 6 weeks and found out that he was not going to perform. And the other contractor we chased out for 6 weeks, we finally got a contract, but we don't think he's going to perform. So this is how this gets narrowed down drastically. So yes.
Right, and there's a problem with a lot of businesses not keeping their information updated and numbers updated and so on and so forth. So that's a business development issue.
All right, I'm going by what I saw. So I saw this gentleman. And then we'll go to you.
My name's Matthew Williams. I'm with Williams Associates. We're on the design side, engineers, and the subco has been vital to us. I'm an African-American firm, and it's put on a number of contracts. Now, I'm not on the construction side, so I'm not talking about $250 million. I'm willing to pay just to help you out. But outside of that, without the subcos, I think we'd be struggling even more than we do on a day-to-day basis. The fact that 7% African American is expected on the job means that I'm particularly valuable. And that means I get to sit at the table. So sure, there may be challenges, sure, there may be issues of availability, capacity, and those are things that they iron out, but the concept of the subco has been important to me and my firm existing today.
Dr. Maxwell Manning, the Institute of Human Business Development. Sub-goals have been very important for me also, but I do recognize that there is an issue around development. And I'm not sure what the state does about that when they do get the data and look to see how many organizations really are developed in that area and provide any assistance for developing organizations in that area. I think that that's really critical, that education part and the help with the development part, because, you know, I've run companies for a long time, but it's still an educational curve for a lot of people to run it well and to be able to target all the goals and cross all the T's and dot all the I's. And so there's a lot of development that's needed in that area. The program is going to work really well, have to help with it.
Back with Sarah and Charles, and piggyback off of what you said. So I was one of the consultants that helped get the program that Ann was talking about. And what we found was a lot of times minority businesses didn't see the value of marketing themselves and using NDE certification. So I think in our community that's an issue, especially in the small business community. There is an expectation to get a certification and then contracts kind of fall in your lap. And that's not the way that it works. And I think a lot of small businesses, because we have a mentality of kind of booster fan and we've got to keep the lights on, if we're not going to get a immediate result, then we move on to the next thing that's going to allow us to make payroll or, get rent or whatever we have to do. And I think where we're lacking, big businesses understand that, this is a long-term investment and that these relationships take time and it's upwards of a year. You have to put in the meetings that don't come to immediate fruition. But I think in the small business community, we have a conference and we smiled and I had lunch and I still didn't get a contract, you know? And that's not the way that it works. And my firm is a state and federal contractor, so I understand that it can take almost 2 years sometimes to close a deal. That's 2 years of lunches and meetings and conferences and, you know, and presentations and they may not call you back for 7 or 8 months, you know, and you call every day. And that's the way it is, that's your sales cycle. And I think the issue is that most small businesses don't understand the sales cycle. They don't understand the way they buy. They don't understand the way that procurement is setting its budgets. And they don't understand how these budgets are allocated. And that's an issue that we have to work on. And a lot of times when we come to the governor's office, that's not addressed. It's kind of like your business, it's great, this is what you do, it's very generic, but it needs to be specific. Like we have to get with businesses and educate them that this is your agency that you're going after. And you have to understand how they buy, what budget they buy, you know, where they get their appropriations from, you know, who marks that budget as approved. Those are things that you learn through the School of Hard Knocks, especially in federal contracting, where they just kind of kick your teeth in and then you're like, oh, I get it. But, you know, but that's also a dangerous cycle because small businesses don't have the fortitude to survive that. And so it's like a never-ending cycle. And so I think when you're talking about goals, you have to talk about it in a realistic time frame, understanding that small businesses, a lot of times, they don't have the 24 months that it takes to develop the past performance, to develop the partnerships, to, you know, develop the financial stability that's needed, that a lot of these RFPs require, and they require them to have them prior to bidding. So I think that's an issue that sometimes the government doesn't understand the reality of the industry, and the goals have to reflect the reality of the industry.
I ran away.
I would just like to share that I've been on both sides. I worked for a large corporation for 17 years that had a state master contract. And when I was a contractor for the large business, it was very difficult for me to find qualified minority businesses because the master contracts all have a percentage participation. And it was difficult to find people that could actually do what I needed them to do. Now, I'm on the other side of the scale. Now I'm working for a minority business, left the big corporation, and now I'm fighting it from the opposite end. The large corporations have the master contracts, so I can't bid on anything. And the master contractors, they've gone through, they found who they like to work with, and that's all they're giving it to over and over. And when I was in the large corporation, the ones that I found, I was too busy to look for others. I just kept giving it to that one, giving it to that one. So what I need to do, what I think we all need to do, maybe the state can assist us with this because then the master contractors will know that, hey, you want us to participate with more than one minority business, is have an introduction when a master contract is awarded, or have a session where minority businesses, these are great, but I bet there's everybody here in every walk of life, every kind of business type, where we can share. But if you go to a specific master contract that maybe any one of you are trying to penetrate and can't get on because you can't get in touch with the master contractors and they just kind of poo-poo you. So maybe you could take a master contract to have the primes meet the minority businesses. Because like I said, now I'm on the other side and it's hard to find the primes that want to do business with us. And it's kind of like a vicious circle.
Did you say your name? Sorry.
Oh, I'm Grace Samarco. I'm with McEnroe Voice and Data.
Well, to be fair though, we are Charleston, probably don't even need the mic, but if it's a multiple acquisition contract, to be fair, the primes can only, get people that are already on that contract. So our subs are kind of, and I don't know if it's different state, it might be different state, but I know I feel like the max that we're on, only the primes are allowed to bid on it, and our subs have to be pre-approved by the CO. So if we go out and we get a sub, and the CO says, no, I don't want that sub, our hands are tied.
Are you talking federal government or state?
I'm talking feds, state might be slightly.
I'm talking state.
Yeah, that's not. That's not
doesn't
true.
hold true.
Okay. So how does it work for the state? So are they, I mean, because if
So on a
you're
master contract or a large contract like she's saying with a master vendor, they name the entities at the time of bid.
Okay.
Right.
So
They're not
they
limited
know
to
them
only a
or
certain.
they don't have time to look for them.
So as she's saying, she's seeing it from both sides
Yes.
of the table.
So I understand it from both sides of the table, but maybe there can be some sort of a meeting that maybe the state can orchestrate, something
Typically
that's
they
similar
are,
to this.
there is, at the beginning, if you watch the solicitation, they're typically pre-bid, especially if it's a large
Oh,
multi-million
no,
dollar
I
contract.
understand that too, but
That's
for
where
example,
that's where the meeting happens. You go to the meeting and meet the people in the room.
I understand that, and I've done that. But the situation I'm in now, the company I am working for was not even aware of state contracts. They hired me to try to expand their business within the state. They didn't know about master contracts. The master contracts are all in place. Sometimes they're not up for renewal for maybe 3 years, 5 years. So, I know the rules. I've been on the other side of the coin. McEnroe, who wasn't there at the pre-bid, I can go online, I mean, your website, to do a website is great and see all who's on there. But if they don't know me and they already have their minority participants, they're not gonna return my call.
Well,
And
that's
that's
exactly what
difficult.
some of the sub-goals is used to do, because there's an overall goal. And you said earlier, a way to diversify who the businesses are working with.
Right.
Continually. That's exactly what the sub-goal is for. So that you don't keep working with the same ones over and over. Now we've given you a new target, which means reach out, find somebody new, develop new relationships.
If our expertise is only on a specific master contract, that's the crimes that we can solicit.
Well, not necessarily. You can still talk to the contracting officer or the program manager when this solicitation is coming out. And I think it all boils down to the acquisition life cycle, right? If the agency knows when they have a new procurement coming out, we put out the pre-bids, we put out, all of this stuff for you to meet them. And I work on both sides of the table, writing solicitations and bidding for them. So I look at it from both perspectives. So the government is on a timeline, right, of, we know this solicitation is expiring, we know we're gonna put it out, and they have a finite window where they can talk freely with you, and then after that, it's hands off, So at that point in time, when you know that something is coming out, because the state puts the forecast out, when you know something is coming out, the last year of the contract is when you should be meeting with the program officer, when you should be meeting with the program manager, or whoever is in that department that is over that contract. That's when you should be making contact with them and letting them know, hey, we can do this, even if it's just a sub. A lot of small businesses don't want to do sub, they think it's, less than, but it's a good way to get on a contract. So let them know that you're not adverse to sub work. You can do it and start talking
Oh,
to them
that's
when
the
you
only
can.
thing like on the master contract I could do, because I'm not on the contract, I can't do it.
Right.
So, to get somebody to consider our business as their sub, if they already have relationships, is difficult.
So I don't know if you're talking about, are you talking about our IT contract?
IT and PBX.
So there is actually quarterly meetings that are held here in this building every quarter for the vendor community, for the CAS contract.
The CAS, right.
Yes, that's where all the master contractors are on.
What about PBX 3?
Now, that's the same meeting. You can come, those are all, anything that's do it related, it's a do it vendor day.
Okay.
So it's for all vendors, it's not limited to any one, it's for all
Oh,
do it
yeah, I've been
vendors.
to those.
So you come to those meetings, so we've offered, that's a step above, we've offered time for you to come and meet with them face to face. Now, we can't force anybody to come.
Right.
It's not every day to come here, but I speak at every one of those events, and this room is packed, it's both sides of this.
No, I've been to, now I know what you're talking about. I've
Okay,
been to
that's
those.
where you come and
Do
you
it vendor
have that
days.
meeting. Yes, so, I'm sorry.
I'm Tomás Estrada, CNT Building Services. Actually, what I have been confronted and having seen, and I've been sure, most of people who are here, that they are aware of this. What's happening is most of the time when we're looking for, to get some work from a prime contractor, basically they want them that we can supply them with all the material, all the labor, bonding, plus sometimes they want a deposit for. That basically is a main reason why I think a lot of the small businesses don't grow in, because what we see, oh, okay, we have this job here for let's say for $100,000, but we have to buy, $70,000 of material, plus labor, we come to like $90,000, and we don't really have, the $90,000, to perform the job. If it will be any way how the state, can help the minority business, that they can avoid, if your prime contractor is gonna hire a minority company, if they can supply at least the material, that will help. And another thing, the bond, all that kind of stuff, that's what is holding up a lot of the small companies not growing.
So you're talking about the financial aspect.
Financial aspect.
Okay.
So I agree with you. My name is Sharon Bland. I'm with Indigo Mid-Atlantic. We are engineering services and construction management firm. And so one of the things that I often hear from governmental entities is that they're splitting up contracts, breaking them into smaller pieces so that we would have opportunities to submit. And I've been told that so many times, but the effect is that it's really not happening. And so if there's anything that I came here today to ask and to see about following up on making contracts more manageable, of more manageable size for small minority businesses. In addition, I agree with this gentleman that spoke about the supplies. We do energy efficient products, and when you're about to go into construction, you have to have your materials ordered, done, set, ready to go. And getting and it would be so great if there was like an equipment financing option or something like that. No, I've tried for that. That does not work like that. The program does not work in the way that I'm imagining it working for equipment financing. But anyway, so that's my point.
So unbundling is her recommendation for unbundling. And just Karen will probably address this in a second, but here's our financial program. But just the commercial for commerce, there are over 30 different funds for the small minority business community. So if you're not getting something, you don't know that there are about 30 funded things through the state, and you do a little bit more research. Okay. Let me give you some statistics while she's writing that down. We are targeting 580,000 small businesses in Maryland alone. 400,000 of those have employees of less than 100. That means 70% of the businesses in Maryland are small. Okay, we only have about 6,000 minority businesses registered in our database. How many? 6,000. Like 5,900. Okay, very similar to our small business reserve program. It's self-certifying. It takes 15 minutes to register. And we still only have about 5,900, 6,000 businesses. So there are a lot of businesses out there that aren't even bothering with these programs for the state. So, Karen.
Well,
my name is Wayne Ninger. I'm with Brycerstown Energy Solutions. And I had a question related to the gentleman back there, his comment, saying that the MDOT frowns on third-tier contractors. And I just wanted to ask if there was a place that specified what was allowed, what was permitted, what wasn't permitted as far as the tier structure. And then I spoke with prime contractors about supplying some of the material, and some of the estimators said, well, you need to talk to the subcontractors, which right away puts you on the third tier. So if that is frowned upon, you're already out of the game there.
So where do you find out about the tiers and what's acceptable on the contract? It's typically on the actual MBE form. So MDOT uses a certain form that looks different from the rest of the state agencies with their transportation. So they're running on a different program, DBE program, because it's federal funds. So their form does look a little different, right? Stadium Authority does a lot of construction work, has a different form, and they delineate what they accept. So your question was, where do you find that information? On the form. It denotes on the form when they're doing the bid of what they're allowing.
Okay. So this lady here said that a lot of it is basically trial and error.
Yeah, well, she might be talking federal.
Yeah, federal law. I mean, to some degree, some state contractors do it too because they don't have the information. But state is a lot more friendly, contractor friendly, and Fed is kind of, you make a mistake and you're out. And I think in the state or anything, you have a little, there's a little more leeway for you on what you're doing.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'd rather not use the mic.
State your name again.
So I'm Karen Barber, I have a bonding agency. Bond from Alaska to Puerto Rico. We have programs. The trouble is, when you have a bond need, you go to your insurance agent, and they really don't know bonding. So they pigeonhole you in maybe situations that are no good for you, or don't have all the wherewithal to tell you because that's not their area of expertise. So we specialize in insurance. We also do commercial general liability, but our primary focus is insurance. So we have fast track programs that go up to $400,000 based off your personal credit score. You don't need financial information. They don't do term contracts primarily, but they'll look at firm fixed price projects or supply and install type projects up to $400,000 with a credit score. As long as you've completed a job up to $200,000, they'll go 2 times your job completed. Then we have a program that goes up to $1 million with limited financial information. You don't need a CPA reviewed financial, but something lesser. Tax returns, personal financial statement, and we can help you get to that level. So there are simple procedures, but a lot of insurance agents who basically just sell insurance probably don't have these programs, so you don't know, right? They're not widely advertised. The surety industry is a little bit in the dark ages. We don't have social media. We don't tweet as much as other people do, so you're kind of limited there. The other issue though is not just the bonding. It is, you know, in 2016 I worked on a piece of legislation. It was my baby, and I got a lot of people to help me. It's called the Change Order Fairness Act. It prohibits the state from issuing unilateral change orders on state-funded work. And because what was happening is the prime and the sub are now at odds with each other, right? The state says, okay, unilateral change, contractor, you do this work. We'll determine the price later. Well, the general contractor doesn't want to have to tell their sub, who could be the MDE sub or small business sub, who doesn't have much access to capital, could be their only job. And says, you got to do this work, I can't pay it. You know, we don't know how much it's going to be. So the law has changed now. It says state has to agree with the prime on the price prior to commencement of work, and if they can't agree, they have 30 days. Oh, so if they can't agree, they have 4 options, one of which is not a unilateral change, but a constructive change directive, meaning that they'll fund the change order to some degree, what they can agree on, and negotiate after 30 days for the rest of the price. Prior to that, a lot of minority and small businesses were going out of business because they couldn't fund the change orders. They were toast. They had declare bankruptcy. They would have these huge underbillings. They would have to find a line of credit to fund all of this, and that killed them. So while you might have a lot of MBEs in the database, they're like little ants right now because they've suffered through huge losses. And when you have a loss with a surety company, or you can't pay your bank debt, it takes years for you to regain that credit. It doesn't happen overnight. That's one issue. And a lot of the state agencies like MDOT and MAA and SHA have not adopted the new law, even though it went into effect June 1st, 2016, which is egregious to me. So then the other problem that I wanted to say was that you have a situation where a lot of these service contracts that the state is putting out, like transportation, trash, window cleaning, they've never needed bonding before. So a lot of the MBEs who have done this work have never improved their financial condition to look good for bonding. You're an LLC, they earn the money, they take it out, they earn the money, they take it out. So then all of a sudden a bond requirement comes into play, and don't even know what it is, but they've been in business a long time. So I think if the state is going to ask them for a bond, at least let them do the first year without the bond, and the second year provide the bond based off the fact now they've been told, they've been educated in the fact that they're going to have to provide a bond for the successive years. Something like that, because it's just too new and it's eliminating a lot of the competition.
initiative. So, the next topic would be effective discrimination on opportunities for MPEs. Some have already been stated, but if anyone else has more comments on the effective discrimination.
Can I add one more thing? I think the Governor's Office of Minority Affairs should hire and fire all the MBE liaisons within the state agencies. They should have that power, right? Because if you have that's a new name, I'm gonna call it, but go there, right? Because you have it too. So let's say you have this Governor's Office of Minority Affairs, but you don't control the MBE liaisons within each state agency. So when there is a subcontractor that really needs help, sometimes the messaging doesn't get up to your office. You don't really know. It stays insular. And I've talked to Lieutenant Governor, and I've talked to, for example, Rob Martinozzi of University of Maryland System, and he likes the idea. He says, I would rather have that. That way there's more like open kimono approach in terms of what's being done, what's not being done, where are the real issues. We can all the MBEs can meet, discuss, and it would better educate GOLA in terms of diversity too, in terms of this sub-goal and goal. It's recorded, so I want this on the recording, so people can hear.
Would absolutely love to expand our offices and have direct oversight over employees. It only makes sense.
Anyone on the effects?
The effects of discrimination.
Overall, administration, this other
It's really just to repeat after that. It's kind of like it's a soft area, but it is somewhat hard, and it's an impact, which is development. To expect minority organizations to be at the same level of development, at the same level of resources. In some ways, that is a perceptual discrimination.
I wonder if my deal that's supposed to provide. I think you said exactly what I was going to say.
Say it one more time.
When the latest my deal that's supposed to provide. Exactly what I was going to say, that perception a lot of times, based on your status and that your ability to perform is often what you should be getting a contract, not getting a contract. And recently, I was very pleased that MDOT done a better job of stepping in and saying certain contractors, certain, I'm gonna supply a contractor, certain people can perform, allow them to perform. They don't need to be a third tier, they can be pumped up. But for a long time, that has been the case. Just to have your name on there, they'll, offer you some kind of a pass-through, that they won't call it pass-through deal. Just to say that the participation, what the goal is to develop business, not necessarily to be the number. Being a number is the end, what you have to do, but the idea is to develop business. And for a long time, contractors weren't seeing it that way. They were seeing their end just being a number, not the development part, which is what all the small businesses want to do.
I have a comment. I think it's a combination of your first three. My name is Karen Kelly, and I'm with L&D, Strategic Communications Company. We're a woman-owned small business, and we do sub to large firms, but we also prime. We prime much smaller contracts. And what we've been struggling with is with the sub goals. So we're looking at a small media communications contract, and the products that we outsource, there aren't African-American owned, Asian owned suppliers to provide those outsourced services. So therefore what we're doing is then we're dividing up a small labor across 4 firms. And so we did this recently on a state contract, and the feedback that we got was that you had the work divided up across too many firms, even though we met all of our sub goals. So as a woman-owned small business, we can only satisfy 50% of the woman-owned small business goal. But But in order to have satisfied all the other goals, because the media, what we need is we need the large media companies in order to give the state the most value. We ended up splitting up the labor, and the state didn't like that. So on the smaller contracts, it's really challenging, especially in a niche field, where there might be one minority-owned media company, but if that company doesn't offer services in your geographic area for the client, then you can't use that media company. So even though there are those types of firms in our NAICS codes, they don't offer the types of services that we can outsource. So on the larger contracts, I know that it's also challenging, but when you're dividing up $1 million worth of labor across 4 firms that all want a significant piece of it, you end up with a very fragmented solution. So, and then if you do outsource, I think what the gentleman mentioned over here, what we're really looking at is brokers. And so we'll have a media broker who's taking a small percentage of a large media budget, but the state's not meeting its goals, even though it gets credit for that purchase. The money, 95% of the money is going to a large business. So we're really, on those smaller contracts, really struggling to meet the sub-goals. Obviously, we support the goals because we are an MVP sub, but the sub-goals are creating a problem in terms of trying to divide up the work and still deliver a cohesive solution to the state. Okay, great.
So we're going to move on to overall administration of the MBE program. We have some comments about the MBE liaison structure.
Bundling of contracts.
Not many people agree with that MBE liaison comment. So every state agency by law is required to have an MBE liaison, and that person's job is just what it sounds like. Any issues that an MBE subcontractor is having on a state contract, they're responsible for handling those issues, keeping them advised of how the contract is going, monitoring compliance with the MBE goals set at the offset. So every state agency has a designated person. There's a list available on our website that provides the contact information for all MBE liaisons. We typically encourage our subcontractors, whenever they're having issues on a contract, that the MBE liaison is the first person that you'll reach out to because they have the most specific knowledge of the contract. And then if you're not able to get anywhere within the agency using the MBE liaison, then you can escalate your issues to OSPA. Information that should be considered when evaluating the effectiveness of the program? Oh.
If the prime is, if they put down a certain percentage that they're going to give to the sub and they don't meet that, is there any repercussions for that?
The idea is that the compliance officer and the procurement officer should be monitoring their activity throughout the life cycle of the contract. And it looks like they're on track not to meet the goal. The prime is supposed to submit a preventive action plan in order to detail how they can meet their goal. If they do not ultimately meet the goal, really it depends on how egregious it is. If it is like a good faith effort, then the state has certain sanctions that we would impose, such as liquidated damages. We have a false claims unit at the Office of Attorney General's office that also investigates if you're saying that you're making payments to your MBEs and not doing so. So those are the ramifications updating the images.
Right, but I'm not doing that, I'm just talking about the corrective action. So if I contact the liaison and I am informed, I'm more empowered to know what is going to happen. So that's another education.
Oh, I encourage everyone, so every, is it third Tuesday? Every third Tuesday of the month, we have a training workshop. Fourth Tuesday. All my days are
Here.
They're here.
It's either here or next door.
Where can we get that information?
So on our website, we have an events calendar. So if you just go to,
Well, if you just sign up on our email list at the bottom of the page, you'll automatically get a notice of any event that we have.
You started to say what type of training,
so it's technical training, everything procurement 101, so it's how to navigate the state procurement system, the anatomy of a bid, that's like an actual training workshop where we break down each session of the bid and show you how to respond. MBE rights and responsibilities, t-shirt is my memory of that, we actually just posted one of those last week. And that's where we go over, I've seen a couple faces here but we go over all your rights and responsibilities, both as an MBE product contractor and subcontractor with the state. So everything that you need to know so that you'll be empowered to protect your interests while working on a state contract, such as liquidated damages or the availability of an MBE liaison. Some people aren't even familiar with where to go if they're having an issue. What you should expect from contractors that you're working with, what forms you need to see before you should proceed, things of that nature. So extremely valuable information every fourth Tuesday of the month. And they alternate, so check to make sure it's one that will be of value to you.
The next one, just since you mentioned it, is August 22nd. The two things that will be addressed is procurement 101. And then we're actually going to bring in a special guest from Capital One to talk about access to capital. So he's going to discuss what typically banks are looking for. So it's an educational part. He'll address some strategies that you can actually take on if you're seeking funding on those levels. And that's a small piece, but that's sometimes we'll alternate that a little bit. So the next one, again, access to capital is in the afternoon, procurement 101 in the morning. Fourth Tuesday of the month, will be August 22nd.
Full day evening?
Well,
Full day evening?
it's a half day, so it's 10 to 12 in the morning is procurement 101, and then 2 to 4 will be the access to capital. And then, September, there'll be another set in September, another one in October, November, and we'll address different areas. You mentioned some of them.
Factors that enhance or inhibit a firm's full participation in state contract opportunities.
So I can give you a live thing. Right now, the MTA has got a contract out for bus transportation services. And it is a 5-year contract. And they put it in the Small Business Reserve Program. And the contract, they want the contractor to post a bond for 5 years all up front at one time. No surety company is going to provide a bond for a small business contractor that's for 5 years. Because you can't forecast profitability beyond 2 years. And after 2 to 3 years, they have a loss, you're stuck on that bond. Now, I put out lots of emails to the MTA, and copied a lot of people, but they reduced the bond penalty to 10%. Doesn't matter. First of all, I mean, it's not like the bond is going to be in effect for the first 10% of the job. The bond is in effect for the full 5 years. The surety is going to want 100% collateral. If that project's $2.5 million for total spend, that's $250,000 that contractor's going to have to put up. And it's like, what surety company is going to feel so excited to write a $250,000 bond for 5 years? I mean, oh, you're just really enticing them to no end, because they're not going to make very much money on it, even if they charge a higher fee, and they can under this circumstance. They they might walk away with 25 or 35,000 in bond premium, but they're gonna have to underwrite this contractor for 5 years. And they already provided the bond, they can't cancel a surety bond. Is this contractor gonna be nice? Maybe not. Maybe they don't wanna provide the financial information. It's gonna be really hard to get that, because you already gave them the bond. So it's gonna be a war to some extent, and the surety knows that, they've been through it before, and they're gonna say, we're just gonna decline based off that because there's no return on my investment. And if they do say, okay, we're gonna bond it, they're gonna use their penal bond rates, which could be range between $75 to $125 per thousand. Okay, so maybe that could be like $35,000, like I said before. But then they're gonna surcharge it for every year that, because there's like 4 more years to that contract, so they might make another $9,000, $10,000. But the thing is, they're gonna require a letter of credit too. And that letter of credit is very expensive to get from a bank. And that letter of credit is gonna be for $250,000 if they need full collateral. And that letter of credit has to stay in effect for 5 years. And when that happens, just so the state knows, because it's in their requirements, that letter of credit makes that cash restricted cash. So from an accounting standpoint, the CPA is going to say restricted cash, $250,000. We can't treat it as a current asset. It diminishes their working capital. And if they have to borrow from Capital One to get the $250,000, they're going to have a current line. They're going to draw on their line, current line bank of credit, $250,000, which that's a current liability, to give the $250,000 in cash, which is now restricted cash. So the cash goes out. Now you've got current debt, and now you're $500,000 in the hole. So these requirements that the MTA is putting on this transportation contract, it's not going to make any small business richer, and it's not conducive to the governor's statement, Maryland is open for business, because it doesn't look like it is for small business in this particular contract. And I just find it really wrong to do that. Why can't they do an annual bond? The Maryland Aviation Authority, when they have term contracts, they do annual bonds and annual contracts, and they renew it every year, and you get a new bond. So I don't understand why that couldn't be done in the transportation contract. Plus, the MTA has decided, okay, not only we're going to ask for a 10% bond up front for 5 years, we're going to ask that we're going to hold 10% retention. Well, the estimates that I'm looking at, these contractors only have 10% gross profit. So you're going to hold their profit for 5 years on small business, right? So then you have that issue. So that's a big problem for state contracts. When they try to take these big contracts that they have and debundle them and put them in the small business reserve, they still want the same requirements that they're putting against big business for small business, and you can't.
Back off that, we bid on a contract that had, it wasn't an IT contract, but it had an IT component. So they asked for $10 million more in cybersecurity insurance. And the problem with that is no insurance agency can quote a small business a $10 million policy unless you have a executed contract. And talking to the contracting officers, they didn't understand that you can't accurately quote for a bid if you don't know how much it's going to cost. When we finally found out how much it was going to be once we got the contract, it was $25,000 higher than what we estimated. And there's no way for a small business to know that, because you can't get that information as a small business unless you have the contract for it. And I think a lot of times the CEOs of the agencies don't really understand the reality of the industry. And a lot of times we're going and asking for quotes for things that aren't necessary. It's not necessary to have more than $1 million, cybersecurity policy if it's not really an IT contract. There's just an IT component. And to try to explain that and explain, a lot of companies out here that are dealing in cybersecurity, they're already, this time they've got it all figured out, so they've already got a higher degree of security. But the agencies don't understand it, and when you're talking to them, these are the people that are making decisions, and they don't understand when they say, yes, we want that, that automatically, as she said, automatically knocks out 5 or 10 people, because a lot of them can't put $25,000 to just get this contract. And on the hopes that the state's going to pay them on time so that they can pay their policy on time. It's a vicious cycle.
I'm Jen Wade from Decisions Oriented. We're
And I would have to echo the last two ladies. That's probably the first thing I look at when I'm looking at a state contract, is what are the bond requirements? Because that does deter me from even trying. I won't even read the statement of work if it's too much for me. I'm only a year old, and it's really hard, to meet those requirements, and so we just don't even try. Another factor that keep me from participating also is, really strict past performance requirements. Like I said, I'm only a year old, and so if it's very strict, I don't even have a shot. And so, you know, if you want to encourage small businesses that are new, you know, having really strict past performance requirements, is really tough on us.
Sometimes when you see those unduly burdensome requirements, you have to reach out to the procurement officer.
Oh, yeah, we ask a lot of questions, we reach out to primes, you know, we try to do everything we can. I think, you know, we would try to do a Dun & Bradstreet, you know, past performance survey. It's just really hard because some of them are just really strict. And what we found, you know, in some of the post-contract award, you know, briefings that we get, they already had someone in mind. They already had a vendor in mind. They had a particular, you know, very specific company or expertise in mind. But when it comes to software, you know, if you like a specific piece of software, just say something, right? So that we don't waste our time trying to fit.
That's all part of the learning process. I go to these meetings, you look around and you see who's looking at who, and you know who the contract policy is, so that's just part of the learning process.
In 2001, I worked on a bill to eliminate proprietary specifications in school construction, and it still is not policed very well because they don't give you enough time for the contractor to submit the substitute product to get approved in time for the bid. And when the new procurement bills came out this year that were passed, I asked for amendments to be put in because a lot of MBEs and small businesses, they can't get the contracts with the big manufacturers who provide some of these specified products that are in the solicitation. And they deal with different types of vendors, so if people sort of like products, but they would have to demonstrate their performance in some cases. And for example, handrail, there's a handrail manufacturing company that does component handrail systems. And if the state is not used to that or doesn't even have a specification for that, but it meets the specifications that the state has, they still need to see it. They need to see a mock-up. They want to see a sample. That takes a long time, and the state only publishes bids 20 days. They're only giving 20 days. So I didn't know if there was. I tried to get an inclusion, an amendment put in that said that if there's a substitute product provided by an MBE small business in the state, they would extend the bid to accommodate review of that substitute product. Otherwise, you know, for example, Traco windows, they're in all the school construction buildings, but if you're an MBE or a small business, you can't get Traco, they won't give it to you. So a lot of times, that was one of why the law was, you know, passed, because my contractors couldn't get in the door to even put on windows for school construction. It's still very difficult. A lot of these big manufacturers have the market corner.
I'm not sure if this is relevant for a lot of other industries, but in communications, a lot of RFPs require speculative work. They require that you have, basically you give away your intellectual property with your RFP. So they want your media strategy, they want your communication strategy. That's a huge lift for a small business. Not to mention, you're basically doing the work that you would be awarded in order to just be awarded the work. So that, if an RFP requires speculative work, that is something that we'll look at, and you know, and as a matter of principle, we'll immediately say no. But that eliminates a lot of contracts on the state level. So I'm not sure how that affects other industries, but
rules, don't deter suppliers, I think the language, a lot of these requests, doesn't put people in mind for suppliers. They're all written for contractors. You know, while suppliers are, part of it, they'll list contractors and suppliers and then everything else. And the solicitations is written towards contractors. So I'm not sure there's a way to change that or how that would change, but that oftentimes is the biggest stumbling block that I have. That is supplier.
You know, we just enacted the 60% rule at the state level as well.
Can you say that again?
Oh, we just enacted the 60% rule, which is a rule that they use at the federal level, where suppliers and wholesalers will only have towards 60%. This way, 60% of the percentage that they're being awarded because, of course, they have to purchase the materials and things of that nature. So the primes won't get the full benefit of counting their 100% participation. What?
We're following the federal rule.
Okay.
Following the federal rule. Thank you. 60%.
I know what you're talking about, when you said that.
And you,
She'll have it down better by October.
Yeah.
is that somewhere on your website?
Yes.
It should be, we have a legislative tab on our website, our policy person. We have a legislative tab, yes, on our website, with updates from everything that has changed this session, especially with procurement modernization. So that will be one of the rules that's going into effect on October 1st. But it completely mirrors the federal regulation, so the idea was just consistency.
Each dollar would only count for 60% of that.
So the last two topics, and these are fairly important, but we're gonna try to knock them out in 10 minutes or so. Suggested information that GOMA should consider when setting the overall MBE goals and sub-goals. Anything we should consider as we look to potentially make changes to our 29% overall goal and our sub-goal recommendations. Everything that's listed.
You know, the reason why there's a lot of this, there's no Hispanic percentage basically is because it wasn't as if this was something, it was not new for them, the communities weren't being, tapped into to say, hey, you need to bring your voice to this, diversity meeting and let them know about the fact that you're truly not getting, that you do have economic disparity. And so one of the things that I have found is the Alliance for Hispanic Commercial Construction, because I see it on the bonding side, so I know it's true. When you're not from this country, you don't understand bonding or financial requirements or even our procurement. And you can build your company up to a certain level, and then when you get into complicated contracts, then that's where those foreign companies start to fail because they can't grasp the knowledge of all the departments that are needed up the flow down language. They're looking at their subcontract agreement, not knowing that all this other flow down language has been put in there. So we have advocacy groups that help with that, but I think what it needs to change is to have more Hispanics at the table, to let them know Latinos, to let us know, let the state know that truly we need to be a percentage in the overall construction spend for some goals.
I asked that question one time to a liaison at a pre-bid of why there wasn't Hispanic in the sub-goal and or woman, and they said that they had adequate participation, and at the other sub-goals there was not. So that's the reasoning that I got. Now, I don't think that's right, but that's the reasoning that we got.
I negotiated 2 contracts for a Hispanic owner, a client that we have. They didn't realize they could negotiate their contracts. They thought they had to sign their own subcontract. I said, no, you can negotiate all of these terms, and this is how it's done. And when I gave a presentation on the current, the legislative wrap-up session, they're not used to they're not from a country where they can go and testify and lobby for new regulation legislation. That's not their government. So it's very different for foreigners to come here and try to get into construction because they're highly smart, highly skilled, but then they don't know the other process that we have here that can do them in. So I think you're right, we need to have, and when I went to an outreach in the legislature recently, it was for a minority outreach, and I went there, and there were no Hispanics. So I said to the senator, I said, why have you contacted the Hispanic caucus? I mean, they're alive, they're well, they're here, why don't you combine? It's minority, it's not African-American minority, it's minority. And so I'm on the task force of the governor to understand challenges facing minorities in Maryland. And I don't think there's any Hispanics represented. And I asked that, and I said, why? We have an Hispanic caucus. We have delegates that represent Hispanics and Latinos in Maryland. So it would be better if, I think, the legislature could understand that, and when they do their MBE outreaches, that they engage both caucuses, the African American and the Hispanic, and that way the word gets out a little bit more.
To be fair, I don't think it's just Hispanics that don't understand that you can negotiate contracts. I think that's a lot of small businesses, because you don't have that capital power. So when you're sitting across the table from, a purchasing agent, you don't understand that you don't have to accept every single term that the state puts in front of you. You don't understand that you don't have to just sign and accept that cost because you've never been there before, and this might be your first contract or like your biggest contract, and you don't want to blow your contract, so you don't want to negotiate.
You're absolutely right. It's just that I deal with bonding contractors, so I don't bond a lot of IT and other firms like that. So I'm looking at specific construction contracts. So that's why I'm looking at Hispanic contractors more than Asian contractors, because Asian contractors generally, I'm seeing more the AE design, IT field, and they don't require bonding. So I'm only talking from my lens of experience in terms of what I see for the bonding construction.
Well, I just see that. I think small businesses, we have to learn that. Like, we have to learn that we can negotiate. And we have to learn that we don't have to accept expenses. And we have to learn that we can counteroffer when we receive a contract. And we also have to learn that when we submit our RFP, we're agreeing to terms and conditions. A lot of us don't know that when we submit an RFP. But those are, like I said, it's full of our knots.
The state's not going to negotiate their contracts. They're not going to change any of their procurement regulations. I'm talking more from a subcontractor to a general contractor.
Any other comments on what we should consider regarding the goals? What about the appropriateness of the state's current 29% goal? General consensus is at the 29%.
I think there should be one for local small businesses, not just 29% MBE. I think they should add a local small business concern.
I agree with that. There are a lot of contracts that are going out of state terms. In our industry, they get extra credit for economic benefit to the state if they commit to leasing a small office in the state. So you could, at least if you have a local small business requirement, then you could at least maintain some of the state funds with Maryland firms.
And that might help out the highway contractors, because if they can get a local small business, then they can at least feel a part of the goal, and if they want to, they really do. And they just, highway construction is very expensive construction. You have to have a lot of bank lines of credit. It's very expensive, all the materials and everything that go into highway construction and the labor. So it's hard for a small business typically, or an MBE, to do that type of work just because of the financing requirements. But if you could expand the 29% going to local small businesses, there could be a larger and local small business who could participate on that highway contract.
If we're adding local small businesses to it, then we'll probably need to take the 29%. consent. 11.9% for MBEs will actually be reduced, because there are people who are not MBEs, being brought up in 9%.
I can always add to it.
Oh, I'm all for that. Don't get
29
me
plus
wrong.
7.
So we need to kick that up.
Or can the goal be specified that it be with Maryland small business?
I'm not sure what the legal ramifications of that are, but I'd have to look into it. I'm sure that's something that has been brought up before. It's something that we would have to research. I'm not entirely sure why that's not enacted right now, if it were in fact possible. So,
You could take a look at the lieutenant governor's page, he actually has a lot on that issue. It was addressed at the public hearing, at the public session for the procurement modernization. And as you can see the minutes to the meeting where he said he was not in favor of that, because then DC would do that, Virginia would do that, Delaware would do that, Pennsylvania, we live too close. When we cross businesses, we don't want to start doing that here, then other people want to do that.
As long as it's easy in other states for Maryland firms to win other state contracts.
I see it because I've applied for, I'm a Maryland business and I've applied for Virginia, and they have a list of the states that they cooperate with.
Yeah.
A list of states they don't. And my assumption is based on what you're saying is, there are states that do only for their state, that's what you don't even play in Virginia too. So you can stay in your state because you don't play well with us. Because we have a cooperation, and we open so that we can all cooperate, so we can put in business in Virginia, if you're Maryland, and participate in their small business, and the Virginia companies can participate in Maryland small business as well.
Right.
When you go to Aberdeen Proving Grounds, for example, federal government, sorry, but Aberdeen Proving Grounds has a requirement that if you want to bid in Aberdeen, you have to have an office 15 miles. You have to have an established office, which means your own door, an employee, lights on. You have to have your own office within 50 miles of the base. That's a large geographic area, but if you're doing a state project, I was thinking maybe you could do it within 5 miles of the project. You have to be located within 5-mile radius of the project. Just to give that community, you could very well have somebody that can help out with one of these projects. I don't think that would be a problem. If you limit the geographic spread to that degree, I don't see how the lieutenant governor could be upset with looking at that. If you put quiet boundaries on it.
Any other comments? I've written down some overarching themes here. I didn't write down everything everyone said verbatim because the session is being recorded and will be transcribed. So all of your specific comments will be taken into consideration. But I've got some overarching themes here. And if you want to drop by and add your check to any one of those, if you feel like I missed your vote of confidence on any one of those topics, please feel free to do so on your way out. I want to thank you all so much for your time. A lot of the big businesses have their lobbyists and small business, we are our own lobbyists. So I want to thank you all for coming out and for your comments.